welcome back to Tomb Raider. So first things first, I've got a couple of pickups in the corner here to get. I've got a set of magnum clips in each corner. And as soon as we head up them steps, we've got two new creatures to face. They are the Atlantean mutants. They're basically the same sort of enemies as the mummies that we've been facing, except they can shoot fireballs at you. And they're going to be a lot more common in the last few levels, so I'm going to get my shotgun out. And the mutants are a little bit stronger than the mummies. The mummies take 3 shotgun shells, the mutants take about 4 each. So make sure you keep your distance. Okay, now that they're over and done with, I'm going to head to the top of the steps. Just going to pick up these magnum clips. And this level's quite a long one, and it's also quite tricky, so I'm going to be saving my game quite often. Okay, so I'm just going to hop up here, and I'm going to grab a medipack. You can grab this later if you want to, but I'd rather grab it now while I remember. So you can probably see that there's a block over here, and there's a little passageway for you to climb up just there. We'll be coming back there in just a moment. Actually, we'll be coming back there at the end of the level. So we're going to slide down this left side here, and at the bottom I'm going to take out my guns, because we've got another mutant to face. One more should do it. Okay, so you can see that we're at the bottom of a giant Sphynx statue. So I'm just going to grab this quick pickup while I'm here. Just some more magnum shells. And you'll get a scale of just how big this level is when you start climbing around. This level is quite difficult because there's quite a few tricky jumps. Some of them are very deceiving. It's a good idea to save your game as often as you can, and to just try and assess your jumps before you make them. Some of the jumps do look a lot shorter than they actually are, which means that you can overshoot them. And some jumps are actually a lot further than they are. So I'm going to do my best, but if I do make some mistakes, I apologise. So first things first, we've got 2 switches that we need to pull in order to open 2 doors. And behind those 2 doors are 2 ankhs. We're going to use the 2 ankhs to put them into the Sphynx statue's head. And that's going to open up the door at the base of the Sphynx. So again, almost all of these jumps require running jumps. I don't think you have to actually grab that one, but I'm going to just in case. Because caution is always a good idea on this level. Again, this one doesn't look too far, it looks like it's just a short hop, but you actually do need to do a running jump because she can't quite get the right height if she does a standing jump. So we're going to jump straight up here, and before we save our game, you'll notice that there is a sliding door to the left just there. You don't actually have to go through there, although that sliding door is quite easy to get past if you want to. You can just do a jump over this way. It's quite an easy jump to make. So what I'm going to do is, before I go ahead and do that switch actually, I think I'll save my game. Just being extra careful. So I'll go ahead and save my game just here because I might make a mistake up this bit. So again, you can walk along all of these sloped tiles, that doesn't make a difference. But you're going to want to do a little hop up here and pull the switch. And I'm going to draw my guns as soon as I pull the switch because it cancels the little cutscene that happens. I'm going to walk to the very edge, but make sure that you do hold down walk if you end up walking around. And I'm just going to wait for a flying creature. You'll probably be able to see it off in the distance. But they are a huge nuisance because on this portion of the game they can knock you off very easily. And they can set you back a lot. Excellent. Now that that's taken care of, we'll be seeing more of those in the future. I'm going to grab that medipack. So I'm going to want to walk right to the very edge and do a standing jump. Excellent. And then to get down safely, we can just hang and drop off this side and slide down these rocks. Okay, now that the first part's over with, we've opened one of the two doors, so let's go open the other one. Now you may notice once I climb up here that there are actually two paths you can take, an upper path to the right and a lower path to the left. We're going to be taking the upper path first. And most of these jumps once we get up here are going to be little hops. So we've got a couple of running jumps. And you can probably see that if we take this left path here, that takes us right the way around to the left side of the room. If we take the upper path, it will take us to the switch. So that switch is where we want to be right now. So almost all of these jumps on this right hand path are standing jumps, most of them little hops. But this is a nice little shortcut here. Normally what you have to do is jump up here and shimmy all the way to the right. But if you stand on the right side of this block, do a running jump and grab, she's got enough space to grab on, which does save you a lot of shimmying time. So once we go through this upper path, normally what we would do is we would grab the level's only secret, which is the Uzi pistols. And the Uzis are the best weapon in the game. However, we don't really get to use them very much because in the next level they get taken away from Lara. So this jump is kind of deceptive again. You want to be very careful because these slopes will push you off and she'll fall onto the sand and die. So a standing jump isn't enough to get over. So we're going to do a running jump. Now bear in mind that even if you don't make it, the next tile over is completely flat. You can walk on it no problem. So even if you do overshoot, you can land on there no problem. And even the next one over, you can land on there no problem. Just make sure that whenever you see the sloping white rocks, you do want to step on the sandy rocks. Just do little hops. That's all you need to get over. And then I'm not going to save my game just yet. Or perhaps I will actually, because this next bit might be a bit tricky. I'll just use it now. Okay, so I'll save my game just here. Again, as soon as we pull this switch, I'm going to take my guns out to cancel the cutscene. And there's going to be a flying mutant coming from over this side. It's going to wait until it gets in range. And as soon as she points a gun, okay, so now we're going to do a little shortcut here. Normally what we would have to do is climb all the way down to the bottom path. Climb all the way around the left hand side to get to these rocks below. What I'm going to do is, I'm going to climb around this end, pick up these shotgun shells. Do a nice big running jump to get over here. And we'll pick up these shotgun shells here. Now I think the way you're supposed to get the secret is that you're supposed to do jump over to that sandy rock there sticking out on the right. And you can see that the Uzis are just floating on an invisible platform over there. Now that jump is very, very tricky to do because it's on an invisible platform and you can't see where you're supposed to grab. She does get enough distance, she has to stand in a very specific spot. And even then she only has just enough height and distance to make it across. It is a very tricky jump indeed. So I prefer to do it the easy way, and plus there is a save crystal right at the end. So now that we've gotten all the pickups from this top path, we're going to save the secret till later on. We need to go down to the bottom path, so I'm going to take a little shortcut. Just going to hang and drop off here. And we're going to backtrack a tiny little bit, just to pick up these magnum shells. Then we're going to carry on. So again, you want to be careful. You can actually walk along all of these, even though they're a bit sloped, but you want to be careful that you don't fall off, because you'll have to go all the way back around and climb up again. And again, hops are the key on this section. No running jumps required. As long as you avoid the white rocks, make sure you stand on the sandy ones. That's a good rule of thumb. Little hop over there. And we're going to tackle our first room. So I'm just going to hop up here. Now in these rooms, there are the centaur creatures that we faced from Tomb of Teotihuacan. Not quite as tough as that, but they are still quite tough. Now I'm going to save the save crystal. So we're going to come around to this right hand path, and this light coloured block, we're going to push it once. I'm just going to walk around without banging Lara's head if I can. And when we hop up here, we want to try and stand outside of this doorway. Whoops. We're going to try and stand outside of this doorway just here, because you can see there is a centaur running around in there. Now what you can do is you can use the doorway for cover, and you can flip in and out of the doorway. However, I'm going to go in and grab a bit more room. So I'll just a fair bit of damage, but as long as you keep moving, these enemies are absolutely no threat. So once we've picked up the small medipack, we'll grab the ankh, and then we need to make our way down to the bottom so that we can go grab the second one. Which kind of glitched out a bit there. So you do want to be a bit more careful than I'm being, because even the save crystals can push Lara off, as you can probably tell. Now I'm going to save my game here, and we're going to slide down this right hand path. This is where we picked up the large medipack from the start of the level. If you walk to the very edge, take your guns out, you should be able to see. There we go again, no damage. So we're going to slide down this far right hand side, and we should land right in front of the next door. This next one's not quite as tricky as the others. There's not very much climbing involved in this one. So we're going to want to ignore this left hand path for now. We're going to want to turn around and slide down backwards. Shimmy over to the left. We don't need to shimmy very far. Then we're going to pick up these magnum clips. And then we'll jump up here. If you do miss that ledge, all that'll happen is you'll fall in the water, you'll climb out the steps, and you'll come up that right hand path. So this time, we've got the same sort of setup, except we do actually want to take this left hand path just here. We do actually want to drop in the water this time because there is a key on the bottom. Now once we've grabbed this key, we are going to need to do a sliding jump. Just need to climb up. We are going to want to do a sliding jump. Now the way I usually do it is I slide forward and then jump at the very last second. But you might actually be able to make it if you hang and drop off the end, slide down backwards, grab it at the very end, then if you climb up and backflip you might be able to make it. But I've always been able to do it going forward. As long as you wait until the last second, she should grab on no problem. I'm going to use the key that we just got from the bottom of the pool. And it's going to open the door behind us. As soon as the door opens, you're going to want to run inside and take your guns out. There's going to be another centaur to face before we can grab the next ankh. So again, I'm just going to do the sliding jump. So I'm going to grab the small medipack. Pick up the ankh. And I'm going to use the save crystal. Again, just being overly cautious because this is quite a long and dangerous level. It's the last of the Egypt levels, so after this we're going to have a couple of very hard levels at the end of the game. I'm going to safety drop into the water. You can jump into the doorway, which takes a little bit of health. So it's best to just drop into the water and climb out. And we're going to exit the way we entered. So again, just drop into the water. Swim to the end and climb out. So our next objective is going to be to climb up to the top of the Sphynx statue. And then we're going to use the 2 ankhs that we've just collected to open the door at the very base of the statue. But once we've popped the 2 ankhs in the head of the Sphynx, we are going to get the level's first and only secret. Okay, so the way we get up is we're going to climb up onto the Sphinx's arm. You can see that there's a little dip in the rocks here. We're going to climb up here onto his shoulder. Can't climb up that one. And this should bring us round to the back of the head. So you can get a little bit stuck there sometimes. Okay, so this can be a little bit tricky, but as long as you step on the highest point of the rock and you aim for the lowest point, you should be fine. So this is quite high up now. We're right at the top of the level. In fact, we can actually touch the ceiling. So you are going to want to be a bit careful here. Place the first ankh in place. Again, if you want to skip that cutscene, you can actually draw your guns. Walk very carefully around the side here, because if you stepped on the wrong tile, she'll slide off the shoulder. Drop down. Again, make sure you drop down backwards, because if you run off forwards, she can actually fall off the face. So you do want to be very careful in this part. I'll pop the second ankh in place. You can see that the door at the very base is opened. Now you definitely want to save your game here because the jump to get the secret can be quite tricky. Not as tricky as the normal route, which I'll show you if I can get the camera to go that way. So you want to hop up onto the very top part of the head, walk to the very end very carefully. You want to be right in the corner. Now if I face it diagonally at about a 45-degree angle and I look down, you can see the Uzis there on the invisible platform. So normally what you would do is you would climb right the way along the outside of the room, and you can see a sandy rock sticking out just to the left here. And normally you would do a straight up jump, but she only just has enough distance to make it, and it's very, very awkward. You have to angle it absolutely perfectly, and because you can't see the platform, it's very, very difficult to grab on. Now she does take a tiny bit of damage here, but all you have to do is, as long as you can get the Uzis to sort of float around on top of Lara's head, like so, all you have to do is take a hop back and just do a run. She'll land right on top of the guns. And this has worked for me every single time. Now you do spawn 2 mutants, so you do want to be very careful. Make sure you walk or use side steps. And we're going to take a run at the headdress, slide down, and again she's probably going to take a little bit of damage. Oh, she actually made it that time. Sometimes she doesn't quite make it. We're going to climb down to the bottom. And if you want to, you can use the Uzis, because we do get the weapons taken away from us at the end of this level. So if you want to use them now, feel free. Now that they're taken care of, let's get on with the level. So we're going to drop down into a room that's got 2 Sphynx statues. And it is a very big room with a very, very long swim at the bottom. So I think one of the statues is Horus and the other one is Anubis. At least I think that's what they're supposed to resemble. So first of all, we're going to get some Uzi clips here. And some shotgun shells here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to swim right the way down to the bottom. And underneath the right hand statue between his feet, there's an opening with a lever that you can pull. This is going to drain the water from half of this room. And it's going to push you up, so if you swim up with it, you might actually save a little bit of time. But it gives you plenty of time to surface. Whoops. So once you've surfaced, let's hop on out. I'm going to climb up this hieroglyphic sort of stone here. And this can be a little bit tricky. It's sort of an angled jump. So you're going to want to go right to the left hand side. Jump about a 45-degree angle, but you should grab on. And this is quite a big jump, so again, wait until you're at least halfway across before you press the grab button. And there's going to be a save crystal on this next ledge, but I'm going to wait until I've defeated this flying mutant creature. Because it mostly just kind of flies around and is a bit of a pain to dispatch. Once you've gotten rid of it, the next bit's pretty easy. Just need to wait for it to pop up again. Again, these things are a huge nuisance, so it's definitely worth getting rid of them. Try not to let them get too close if you can help it, but obviously sometimes they do just make a beeline straight for you. Awesome. Now that the awkward part's over and done with, I'm going to save my game in case I do happen to fall. Okay, so the next bit's actually pretty easy. As long as you're careful and you line up your jump, you're alright. So you can see that this is the edge of the platform that we were stood on. We want to hang off and drop. And then you can see that we've got 2 rocks just there. You want to do a running jump. You can actually make it all the way over to the head. But there's not really any reason to be up here. So just hang and drop. And then again on this side, facing in the middle of the room, we want to hang and drop. She'll glitch through a couple of these textures a little bit, but it's nothing major. It's a very, very quick route down. And we're now in the statue's lap. So we want to go ahead and pull this lever. That's opened the door at the base of the other statue. So let's go ahead and dive in the water. Swim down beneath his feet. And let's climb up here. Now this next bit, we've got a long climb to get back up to the top. So I'm just going to talk about this next bit. We're going to emerge back in the room at the very start with the large steps and the 2 gates either side. There's a couple of pickups on the way up here, so I may stop. The best way I've found to tackle it is there is actually a centaur and 2 mutants, and it's quite difficult because they all tend to attack you at once. And it can be rather awkward because you have to use a lot of medipacks. Now, I've been able to do this where I can take very little damage, and I've run into a bit of bad luck where I've had to take a lot of damage. So if it all goes well, hopefully I won't have to use any medipacks, but I imagine I will. Now once we get to the top, as soon as we pick up this scarab, there's going to be, the mutant's going to come down the steps, the centaur, sorry, is going to come down the steps, and the 2 mutants are going to follow me back into this area. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to backflip, and they only follow you so far back. The centaur won't actually come down this way, but the 2 mutants will. So what I might actually do is I might get out a shotgun. Both weapons work just fine. Shotgun is a bit slow. Another one. Again, unfortunately, because they're so close, I've took some damage from the explosion. Once that's over and done with, the centaur's dead easy to dispatch. Just do the same thing that we've been doing. It's just the same thing. As long as she's got enough space to So before I do this next bit, I'm going to save it. Even though I think the hardest part is actually over and done with now. But I'm going to save it anyway, just in case I mess up. So we're about to enter the last room, and then that'll be the Egypt levels over and done with. So we're going to place the scarab in the slot. And as soon as we enter the next room, I'm going to take out my magnums, and we're going to have to be Larson again. Because apparently we didn't give him enough punishment at the end of the Peru levels. So I'll pick up these items, slide down here, and then we're going to jump up this little crevice to the left. We can take him out really easy. He's an absolute pushover. So as soon as we land in the room, he's going to start firing at us, so I'm going to get a head start. I know where he comes from.
I still got a pain in my brain. This got me funny ideas, man. I like to shoot you to hell.
Literally killed him before he could even finish speaking. He's an absolute pushover. He's even worse than Pierre. So as soon as we've done that, all we have to do is grab the Scion, and that's the end of the level. kills 15, pickups 28, secret 1 of 1.